From a policy perspective, we've been discussing the question of, is Europe competitive compared to a lot of the global players that are ramping up their competitiveness in the bio-based space? How competitive is Europe today in bringing bio-based innovations from lab to fab compared to other global players like the US or China?
Yes, let's maybe look back first. So where were we 10 years ago? 10 years ago, the bioeconomy was definitely a niche. And since then, a lot happened, actually. A bioeconomy strategy was set up by the European Union. CBE joint undertaking, the public-private partnership, was established as well as a support for companies and the research center and the universities who wanted to move from the lab to a demonstration scale to the first industrial plants. And this has been a success. So I think we have to be very proud about this journey that actually helped companies overcoming what we call today the first valley of death, which is the place where companies who want to scale up do not manage to get the necessary support, financial or technological, to actually develop ideas towards the market. But today there is a common knowledge that there is a second valley of death, and is the one that should lead companies to actually commercialize these products that have been developed so far. And that's a difficulty we have actually today in getting companies really to the market. So how do we compare ourselves with other places in the world? There are certainly places where innovation has been scaling up at the same pace. The United States definitely are an example, but they went a bit fast and slow depending on who was the president actually of the United States, because the policies are very different. China do not have the same capacities we have in exploiting ideas from the lab, and especially the talent we have in our small and medium company especially, but they are very good in the second stage of its development because they have huge capital, they move very fast from infrastructure level but also innovation level, and they can offer very good conditions. So while on one side we are very competitive in actually producing excellent research and innovation, I think we are a bit weaker in helping companies make the second jump and go to a real market development.
I guess in China it helps that they're able to, from an autocratic point of view, bundle the resources, right? And say, look, this is the direction we're going, and then that's where they go, right? So
Indeed. There is a policy push that is accompanied also by huge capitals on one side. On the other side, they have very low labor costs, lower energy costs compared to what we have here, and a regulation that is maybe a bit less stringent compared to the one we have in Europe.
Sure. And the CBE JU is focusing on companies to help bridge the second valley or the first?
Actually, our work has been focusing on the first one. We do support the before last step, before commercialization, because our largest projects are actually large-scale projects for an innovation agency, but they are still a first-of-a-kind industrial unit.
So you mentioned earlier, right, that the topic was niche. It's getting a bit more mainstream. You have a lot of policy that is focusing on improving or facilitating entrepreneurship in this space in Europe. How are strategies like the EU Bioeconomy strategy, the EU Scale-up strategy, the Biotech Act contributing to making Europe more attractive for entrepreneurs in this space in Europe?
So again, looking back at the past again, the bioeconomy was not so high in the political agenda of the European Union and the member states, because let's remember also that 2/3 of member states today have bioeconomy strategies and action plans in place, which is a big difference compared to 10 years ago. Now, all these initiatives that we are about to see or we are seeing already will help create a reliable background for companies knowing what is the direction forward. They will touch a more strategic high-level view, but also they will include a series of very practical measures to help companies overcome the current difficulty. And the current difficulties are regulatory on one side, access to finance on the other side, and a bit of market pull measures to help these companies reach the market. So in my opinion, all these initiatives will provide certainty to companies looking forward, but not only to companies, because it is an ecosystem. This certainty will be also exploited, if you want, by the financial sector, for example, that today sees the bioeconomy still a very risky area.
Do you think that the recent geopolitical developments in Europe, I'm talking clearly about the war in Ukraine, has led to European governments understanding the importance of moving away from fossil-based dependencies?
Certainly, because we were largely, as European Union, but certain member states more specifically, dependent from Russian oil and gas. And so definitely having a larger part of our economy less reliant on fossil-based fuels and materials, chemicals, because a large part of the chemicals done today are based on fossil materials, have been a sort of wake-up call. So definitely also we saw the disruption that happened also to the supply chains over Europe with the war in Ukraine. So there have been a lot of geopolitical repositioning of the European Union in this sense. What for me is comforting is the fact that the European Union want to maintain the bar on the sustainability and the green transition, which are fundamentally supported by the bioeconomy and the stakeholders around the bioeconomy.
Looking across the other side of the pond to the US, you previously mentioned that depending on who's president, right, priorities are changing. However, if you look at programs like Biomed in the US, do you think that this is a trend that will be disrupted? Is this something where, under the current administration, priorities will be put elsewhere, let's say, because you also have a lot of interest tied to the fossil-based, right, in the States especially?
Yeah, indeed it is a very peculiar situation. So we might see, in my opinion, some announcement about phasing out some programs that were established during the Biden administration. But in the reality, some of these programs will remain under another name, not under the label of sustainability and mitigation of climate change, but under a different brand. There is business, because this is what this administration is about. And what we will see also is these measures will stay because they are related to states where the Republicans have the majority. These are states where there is large-scale agriculture, there are biofuels, there are already bio-based solutions that are developed there. So I think they will not delete everything. They will change name, rebrand possibly, but so the US will remain an important actor in the global bioeconomy.
So in that sense, it's not a political or maybe even ideological topic, right, where it's about sustainability and climate change, because we know the current president doesn't believe that this is real. So instead, it's about framing it as a business case, right, which it is.
Yeah. Indeed.
To come back to Europe, what are the most important regulatory principles that Europe should prioritize to ensure that policy actively supports the scale-up of sustainable materials and bio-based technology?
This is a $1 million question.
I know.
We will have hopefully some answers this week.
I think so.
But so it is a very complex ecosystem, and I repeat this word again because it gives the idea that there is no silver bullet, actually. It's quite important that we get the regulation fit for purpose. So not necessarily deregulating what exists today, but really finding the ways to make it fit for the bioeconomy, because the bioeconomy innovators actually operate in an area that is between the chemicals and the materials. So it's not really, the regulation that exists today are not really meant for the bioeconomy innovators. Also, there is, for me, a space of freedom that we should leave to these innovators. It's what in the European Union is called regulatory sandboxes. So areas where, or volumes where actually companies can innovate without having to strictly respect the boundaries of regulation under a certain context, of course. I think we should also accelerate some approval process. We know that there are agencies today in Europe that are really involved in the approval process of bio-based chemicals or bio-based alternative proteins, for example. That's something that has to be done definitely there. For me, there is one important element on the regulation, there is the standards. Today, in Europe, we do not have a definition of what is a bio-based product. And is actually a very, very important definition, because when you have the standards set at the international level that something has the environmental and sustainability properties of a bio-based product, then it unlocks a series of possibilities and possible measures, for example, for market pull, because if it will be proposed that there are some certain public procurement that should have a quota of bio-based product included into it, or bio-based plastic, one part of the bio-based plastic could be bio-based. So this will create also a certainty for investors. And for me, the largest investor in the EU should be the European Investment Bank. And there is clearly a work to be done there to have from their side a clear pathway for bio-based innovation that can be funded, because they use large capitals and can really get companies to the market.
You just mentioned that there is no silver bullet, but later in the panel discussion that it will be my last question to you. And I'm wondering if you think that maybe it is the funding part?
For me, the most impactful thing it is to find a complementarity among these measures. So there is not one that will make the difference, but actually is having them aligned with each other, so that actually we create a pathway, certainty for investors, being them private, public, banks, etc., to actually see the reality of a pathway for investment forward for the bioeconomy. So complementarity for me is the key word here.